Hey everyone, hopefully you're watching this on Tuesday, April 21st. If things get changed around and dates don't work anymore, my bad. Today we're going to practice making connections. You should have just watched a video explaining what the different kinds of connections are. We're going to be working with text to text, text to self, and text to world connections. So right now I'm going to read a couple passages and I'm going to walk you through my thought process and how I can put into words the connection I'm making with each individual text. And then you'll practice this with other texts on Benchmark. And you'll write in the margins like normal. All right, so this is the first story I'm going to look at. And with this story, I'm going to try to make a text to self connection. I'm going to add my notes down here. You won't be doing this on Google Slides. This was just easier for me to show you. So I'm going to say text to self. That's where I'll write my connection, because at the bottom it says, what does this story remind you of from your own life? So that'll be text to self. Kayla was playing a card game with her little sister, Alana. Alana had already lost 2 games and was becoming frustrated. Kayla realized that she had the winning card in her hand. On her next turn, Kayla played a different card instead. A few turns later, Alana won the game. So I'm trying to think, how does this remind me of something in my life? Well, I remember when I was young, I would play the game Candyland with my older sister. And I'll be honest, was a little bit of a sore loser, and I hated losing Candyland to my sister. And she started to realize that. So looking back, I didn't realize this at the time, but looking back, I know that she probably let me win a lot of the time so I wouldn't be upset, so I would be happy. Just like Kayla let her younger sister Alana win the card game in this story. So I'm going to use some sentence frames that I know to write my connection. This story reminds me of my life because just like Kayla let Alana win the card game so she wouldn't be frustrated. And I always want to make my connections very specific. So I'm going to reference the text that I just read and make sure that the reader understands what I'm saying. The story reminds me of my life because just like Kayla let Alana win the card game so she wouldn't be frustrated, my sister used to let me win the game Candyland when we were younger because I would get very upset when I lost. So there's my text to self connection with the story about Kayla and her sister Alana playing cards. Text to self. Let's do another. This time I'm going to be making a text to text connection that says, what does this story remind you of from something else that you have read? So this is going to be a text to text connection. So let's read this again, and I want to see, does this text remind me of a different story that I've read or heard? Moira waved her magic wand and spoke the magic words. The book on the table did not move. She tried again. Still nothing. Shayla walked by and smirked at Moira. She gave her wand a little flick, and the book popped open. Moira groaned as Shayla walked away. At this rate, she would never become a witch. Now, I'm sure many of you can imagine what text this is making me think of, although some of you might think of the movie. I'm thinking of the books, Harry Potter, everyone's favorite wizarding stories. So I'm going to make a text-to-text connection between this paragraph and one of the first the first Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So before I type it out, I want to make sure I know what I'm about to say. I'm thinking that this situation, when Moira's trying to do a magic spell, is having a hard time, and then Shayla walks by and does it super easily, this is making me think of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, when the character Ron is having a hard time doing a certain spell, and he's struggling, he can't say the spell quite right, it's not working. And then another character, Hermione, who's really good automatically at magic. She's just good right away. She does the same spell perfectly on the first try, and the teacher says, well done, nice job, and Ron is frustrated. So I'm not going to write all of that down, but I'm going to try to put this into words, my text-to-text connection. This paragraph reminds me of the story Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. In this paragraph, Moria, apparently I've been saying that name wrong, Moria is having a hard time doing magic, and a girl named Shayla walks by and does the magic easily. It seems like Shayla is very confident in her skills. In Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the character Ron is like Moria. He has a hard time completing simple spells. The character Shayla reminds me of Hermione Granger from Harry Potter, who is known to be an extremely good young wizard. She's also very confident, like Shayla. So, yes, this is a lot of words, but it's a clear explanation of how this paragraph reminds me of a different text that I've read. You don't just want to say it reminds me of Harry Potter because Ron struggles with magic, because that doesn't tell me who Ron is, what the other story was about, how does that connect to this paragraph. You want to be specific. All right, let's try one more type of connection. So this connection is going to be text to world. That means I'm going to read this and think, what does this remind me of that's happened in the real world, outside of just me, my life, my family? So once again, this is going to be text to world connection. Allie and her family stared up at the moon. Slowly, they watched as the shadow of the earth moved across the giant white circle. Soon, the moon was completely covered, and the sky was dark. "That's a lunar eclipse," said her father. "Awesome," Allie replied. Well, this makes me think of a couple things, because I think we've had a lunar eclipse not too far in the past, but the word eclipse made me remember that this year, I think in June or July, I think maybe June, we are supposed to have a solar eclipse, which is when the sun is completely covered. So that absolutely is a text-to-world connection, because the solar eclipse is going to happen to the whole world, just like the lunar eclipse in this paragraph. So let's start. This text makes me think of the solar eclipse that our world is supposed to have this year. Now, I want to make sure I'm completely comparing this to the text and making it obvious why I thought of this. In this paragraph, Allie and her father see a lunar eclipse, which is when the moon is completely covered. The solar eclipse that will happen this year is when the sun is completely covered. Both of these things are incredible to see. There's my text-to-world connection of this paragraph, and how does it make me think of the real world around me, stuff that's happened, stuff that will happen? So once again, our 3 types of connections that we'll be practicing: text to self, text to text, and text to world. Whenever you make these connections, you want to make it very clear what in the text specifically made you think of something else. Now it's your turn.